Fire. It devoured everything. Home, family, hope, reduced to smoldering embers and the ghosts of memories. Kalen knelt amidst the ruins, the acrid smoke stinging his eyes, but not as much as the icy grip of despair crushing his heart. His village, once alive with laughter and warmth, now lay silent, shrouded in a chilling quietude broken only by the mournful crackle of dying flames. His family, gone. Their faces, etched in his memory, now flickered like fading embers in the wind. The stench of death hung heavy in the air, a gruesome testament to the carnage. A chilling wind howled through the skeletal remains of his home, whispering names he no longer wanted to remember, names that brought fresh waves of agony crashing down upon him. His fingers tightened around the charred pendant he'd found, the metal searing his palm, a grim reminder of the inferno that had consumed his life. This pendant, the only remnant of his past, whispered a single name: Sorin, the architect of his suffering, his breath hitched in his throat, each inhale a struggle against the suffocating grip of grief. The world around him seemed to blur, the line between reality and nightmare fading into a haze of pain and disbelief. From the ashes of his shattered life, a single consuming desire began to stir. Vengeance. Sorin would pay. He would find him. He would make him suffer. Days bled into weeks, each sunrise a cruel reminder of his loss. Kalen wandered, aimless, adrift in a sea of despair. The world felt cold, distant, the vibrant hues of life replaced by the monochrome palette of his grief. Sleep offered no escape, only haunted visions of that fateful night, the screams of his loved ones echoing in his ears long after he woke, drenched in a cold sweat. He had become a ghost, haunting the fringes of civilization, his only companions the bitter whispers of the wind and the gnawing hunger for revenge that consumed him from within. He had never known true hatred before, but now it pulsed through his veins, a dark and seductive elixir that promised both power and oblivion. Gazing into a stagnant pool, he saw not his reflection, but a stranger staring back. Gone was the youthful innocence, replaced by a hardened mask of pain and resolve. His eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, now burned with a cold, steely glint. The abyss had gazed back, and in its depths, he saw a reflection of his own fractured soul. Vengeance, he realized, was a double-edged sword. It promised satisfaction, but at what cost? Could he embrace this darkness without becoming that which he sought to destroy? The decision, once made, was an unbreakable vow etched into his very being. He would become vengeance incarnate. He would hunt down Sorin, no matter how long it took, no matter the cost. But he was but a farmer, unskilled in the arts of combat and tracking. To stand a chance against a creature as powerful and ruthless as Sorin, he needed guidance, needed to hone his body and mind into weapons of retribution. His wanderings led him to the monastery of the Crimsonvow, a secluded fortress nestled amidst towering peaks enshrouded in an air of ancient power. Legend spoke of warrior monks who dedicated their lives to combating darkness, their bodies tempered into living weapons, their spirits unyielding in the face of evil. With nothing but the tattered clothes on his back and the burning ember of vengeance in his heart, he stood before the imposing monastery gates, a silent plea for guidance in his quest. The gates creaked open, revealing a wizened monk with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom and sorrow. He saw the darkness clinging to Kalen, felt the raw, untamed power simmering beneath the surface. Vengeance is a dangerous path, the monk warned, his voice a low rumble. It can consume you, twist you into something you no longer recognize. Are you willing to pay that price? Kalen didn't hesitate. I have nothing left to lose, he said, his voice firm, resolute. Teach me to fight. Help me claim my vengeance. Years passed, years of grueling training, of pushing his body and mind to their absolute limits. The monks of the Crimsonvow became his new family, their teachings, his lifeline in the storm of his grief. He learned to wield a variety of weapons, his movements becoming fluid, deadly, each strike a whispered promise of retribution. He studied ancient texts, delving into the lore of creatures like Sorin, understanding their weaknesses, learning to anticipate their movements. But his most valuable weapon was his own mind. The monks taught him to control his rage, to channel it, to use it as fuel for his purpose without letting it consume him. He honed his focus, becoming a master strategist, always thinking several steps ahead, anticipating his prey's every move. He was no longer the naive farm boy consumed by grief. He was Kalen, the hunter, and he was coming for Sorin. He tracked Sorin relentlessly, following whispered rumors, piecing together clues from the carnage left in the vampire's wake. He learned to anticipate his enemy's movements, to predict his next target, always staying one step ahead. He set traps, using Sorin's arrogance and thirst for power against him, luring him into carefully orchestrated confrontations. With each encounter, with each victory, however small, Kalen felt the icy grip of vengeance loosen its hold, replaced by a quiet, steely resolve. He would have his revenge, but he would not let it define him. He would not become a monster in its pursuit. One moonless night, his search led him to a desolate graveyard bathed in an unnatural, ethereal glow. The air crackled with dark energy, the stench of decay overpowering, sending shivers down his spine. This was a place of power, a feeding ground for creatures like Sorin, and it held echoes of his past, whispers of the night his life had changed forever. He could feel Sorin's presence now, a palpable darkness that seemed to seep from the very stones. The vampire was toying with him, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs, confident in his own power, reveling in the fear he instilled. But Kalen had learned to use fear as a weapon, to turn it inward, to forge it into a shield of cold, calculating resolve. He would not be baited into a reckless attack. This time, he would choose the time and place of their final confrontation. The final confrontation took place in the ruins of his village, a place where his sorrow was strongest, but also where his resolve burned brightest. The air crackled with anticipation as Kalen faced Sorin, the charred remains of his home, a grim reminder of all he had lost. "You've become quite the hunter," Sorin sneered, his eyes glowing with malevolent amusement. "But what will you do when you catch your prey? Will vengeance truly fill the void in your heart?" Their blades clashed in a flurry of sparks, a dance of death beneath a sky stained crimson by the setting sun. Kalen fought with the fury of a cornered animal, his movements a blur, each strike infused with years of training and the raw power of his pain. But Sorin was strong, ancient, his movements swift and unpredictable. The fight raged, a whirlwind of steel and shadows. Kalen, fueled by righteous fury and honed skill, managed to wound Sorin, but not without cost. He felt the searing pain of the vampire's claws tearing through his flesh, but he pushed on, driven by the echoes of the past, by the faces of those he'd lost. As the battle reached its crescendo, Kalen saw an opening, a flicker of vulnerability in Sorin's defenses. With a surge of adrenaline, he disarmed the vampire, sending his blade spinning away into the darkness. He had him. He pressed his own blade to Sorin's throat, the cold steel a whisper away from ending the monster's life. "Finish it," a voice whispered within him, a voice that sounded suspiciously like his own, yet twisted, darkened by years of pain and hatred. "Kill him and let it end." Kalen hesitated, the weight of his decision crushing him. He could end it, right here, right now. He could avenge his family, silence the whispers of the past. But as he looked into Sorin's eyes, he saw not just a monster but a reflection of the darkness that threatened to consume him. Was taking a life, even one as deserving as this, worth sacrificing his own soul? With a shuddering breath, he lowered his blade. "No," he whispered, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "I won't become like you. Your life is forfeit, but I won't be the one to take it." He sheathed his sword, the metal singing softly as it slotted into place. He had tasted victory, but it felt hollow, ashen. The cycle of vengeance was broken, but the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. He left Sorin, defeated and disarmed, in the hands of the Crimsonvow monks. They would see to his imprisonment, ensure he could never harm another soul. As he walked away from the ruins of his past, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders, a burden he hadn't realized he'd been carrying for so long. The path of vengeance had led him here, but it no longer defined him. He had found a different path, a path of healing, of redemption. He returned to the monastery, not as a warrior seeking vengeance, but as a brother seeking solace and purpose. He dedicated his life to helping others, to guiding them away from the precipice of despair that he himself had almost succumbed to. He shared his story, his pain, his struggle, hoping that it might serve as a warning, a beacon of hope for those lost in their own darkness. The nightmares still came, whispers of the past that refused to be silenced. But now, they were countered by the warmth of camaraderie, by the satisfaction of helping others find peace. He knew he could never truly outrun his past, but he could choose to learn from it, to grow from it, to use his experiences to forge a new path, not just for himself, but for others who had suffered similar loss. Years later, as he stood on the precipice of the mountain, gazing out at the world bathed in the soft hues of dawn, he knew that the crimson stain of vengeance would never truly fade. It was a part of him, a reminder of the path he had walked and the lessons he had learned. But it no longer controlled him, no longer defined him. He had found peace, a hard-won tranquility found not in the pursuit of retribution, but in the embrace of compassion and understanding. And as the sun rose, painting the sky in hues of hope and renewal, he knew that even in the darkest of times, even in the face of unimaginable loss, there was always a choice to be made, to succumb to the darkness or to rise above it, stronger, wiser and more compassionate for having walked through the fire.